What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to talk about the God of War rumors yet again. Try to make sense of it all. We actually got a new update from Jeff Grubb that gives us just a little, and I want to really try to make a video here where we try to tie everything together and, again, really try to make sense of what's going on, because I feel like a lot of people are kind of confused by it, right? Like, would Kratos go back to Greece, and does that make sense for his current character arc, right, in terms of like modern day God of War 2018 and Ragnarok Kratos versus this being a game that actually could be a young Kratos, right? So we talked about, the newest update from Jeff Grubb, that it wasn't going to be a remastered collection. It was going to be a side story, a Miles Morales type game, if you will. That would be a Greece-centered story, okay, going to Greece. Now, one of the things I had said in that video, we had started to throw out some suggestions or some possibilities, right? Does it necessarily have to be Kratos? Because you think about the end of God of War, Ragnarok, and, you would imagine the next God of War game, because of the name and just because of how big Kratos is, you would keep him and put him on, the next, mythology type thing. So, okay, could this spin off? Because we know Greece, right? Let's say just from Jeff Grubb's thing a few days ago, we know Greece. Well, could that be an Atreus thing? Well, he actually did a podcast today, and he talked, and he specifically said, well, he actually said two things. Number one, this is not Santa Monica's next big thing. Now, that's not all that surprising, right? You have Cory Barlog's game. I would argue, and I don't know if I would want to read all the way into this, but I'm going to do it just a little bit. You have Cory Barlog's game, and you also have probably the next main installment God of War game. So, he says this is not the next big thing that they're doing. I would argue it's not the next two big things they're doing. I think, honestly, they're probably working on two or three things at once, juggling people around, all that jazz. Maybe not the best idea, considering the pace specifically of Cory Barlog's game, but that feels like how it's happening over there at Santa Monica, right? So that's one thing he said, and he specifically said that this is a Kratos game. Okay, so he doubled down on it. Actually, that's another maybe third part of it. He doubled down on it. He was explicitly told it was going to be a side story, project or side story game starring Kratos. So, okay, now we can, I think, really start to put things together, because you have that, and you could say, okay, well, Alex, starring Kratos, that doesn't mean too much. Well, honestly, it takes Atreus out of the picture. And now it brings in what I had mentioned the other day about Tom Henderson. Remember, he was the reason that I had hope for the remastered thing in the first place, right? It was originally being spread among mid to low-level insiders that, are not very trustworthy, actually, as we found out. But Tom Henderson came out there, who's the second best insider. He came out a while ago, and he had talked about how he had heard about this young Kratos game, and he didn't. And I've always said this, right? He didn't know if it was a reboot, remake. But the thing right there is, what do those two kind of things have in common? Well, they're all younger. You know what I mean? If you're rebooting the franchise, you're not going to have this old man Kratos. You might have a Kratos that's young again. If it's a remake, same type of thing. If you're remaking God of War 1, it would be a young Kratos. Also, you think about all the things that also make sense. You think about the end of God of War Valhalla. Again, things we've talked about over and over again, right? And you have that Kratos. Now, that, to me, gives me the belief that they've already made, well, actually, they did. It's literally right there in front of you. You could see it. They've made the asset, right? They've made the visual representation of Kratos looking like he does in God of War 1, 2, 3, whatever. He looks like that, but it's in the engine or, the specs that they're using now. So everything really is lining up that I am willing to predict. This is just a prediction. I'm not saying 100% fact, something that gets people seemingly mad all of a sudden. I'm predicting that this would be a younger God of War. Now, here's the thing, right? Because when I saw this updated Jeff Grubb thing, I saw quite the divide online. I don't think this ruins Kratos' character either way. But if you just want to talk about, if they had him old, like he is right now, right? Say at the end of Ragnarok, if they had him go back to Greece to try to do some reflection type game, I don't actually think that would be a bad thing. I think you'd have to work to make it work. You'd have to, put in the effort there. But I think there's actually a story that you could tell there about, again, that reflection of him understanding what he's done. Now, the thing is, well, I say that and I just kind of hinted at where I was going with the theme of that game. I don't know if you need the game. I think you could do it. I think it could work. I think there's something there. But you think about the ending of Valhalla and even the ending of Ragnarok, and like acceptance is a huge part of it. In fact, acceptance has been a big part of God of War 2018 on, right? This idea that you can't really change the past. He knows what he was. He knows what he did. He knows that there's really no going back and changing it. He's taught Atreus these lessons. You've had his relationships advance. Like, you've had all this stuff. So, I mean, is there a difference between him teaching the lessons and then him literally going back to the place that he destroyed and learning to, like, forgive himself in that moment? Yes, but I mean, he kind of already is doing that. You know what I mean? So, again, like, I think this is something you can do. I just don't think it's all that necessary. It's why I actually believe, again, I will predict, it's why I believe it's going to be a young Kratos. Now, that one's a bit more tough, right? Because you already have so many games. You already have the trilogy, and then you got these, you have Ascension and you have the two PSP ones. And so you have a lot of like the origin, like early days. Great. Now there are gods left. There are gods that were skipped. There's all of these different things I guess they could do. You could have boss battles. You could have all the, and you're gonna actually have to, right? But you're gonna have to find a really good placement, I think, for it. And I don't know, that one again, I think it would work, and ultimately it's probably what we're gonna get in terms of my prediction. But I think you're gonna have to work to make it fit in with the timeline, and it might feel, again, I think like thematically, I think it might be a little weird because you have the current day Kratos being like, okay, like everything I just said, right? Like what's done is done, and you can learn from that, you can move on, you can accept, you can forgive, all that jazz. Then you're going to make a game and you're going to have him doing those things. So it'll be interesting, or maybe it'll be flashbacks. Maybe we'll see Kratos as, the older, wiser man, and then he'll kind of go back and forth and see some of the stuff he did, new stuff, right? A new part of the timeline that will then play us. I feel like that maybe makes the most sense to thematically connect the dots between the old and the new, where he's almost telling a story to himself. Maybe he's telling a story to somebody else, because then it's not, okay, well, we're just putting him back when he was just this rage-filled, God. We're going to kind of have him reflecting, and we're just going to show that reflection. I feel like that's what would make the most sense. That would be my pitch if I were doing this. So we'll see what they do. No matter what they do, I will, of course, be covering it. And by the way, I mean, I don't know what's going on with the internet. I don't know what's going on with certain people out there. Just relax. I try not to really push things or tell you guys what to do, but the idea that people are flipping the F out, on social media, that you can't talk about the rumors, you can't spread them. If you are, you're claiming that it's news. I think a lot of it's just honestly garbage. These are not nobodies. These are Jeff Grubb and Tom Henderson are not these low life losers, on social media, trying to like make ends meet and like trying to just get a few clicks. Like there are people like that, but they're like some of the better ones. I know Jeff Grubb's kind of more split in like popularity, but Tom Henderson is the best insider out there besides Jason Schreier. So I don't really get where all of this like hate, where people are just doing it just because they feel like it. I know I'm kind of going on a tangent, but I feel like it's weird. People can get excited for what they want. If they don't want to get excited, whatever. I don't really think it's harming anyone unless there's like threats or attacks to Santa Monica, which there shouldn't be. No one has ever said to do that. So unless there's that, what's a little like internet banter, like just talking about what could potentially happen? I don't really see how that's such a negative. So just wanted to kind of throw that in at the end of the video. I feel like this is just kind of weird what's going on. People can discuss what they want to discuss. Let me know what you think. Make sure you're subscribed, bell icon turned on. I hope to see you all on the next one.